think ethics in the workplace and ethics in society are one of the most critical issues for my generation and beyond. We have to promote a society that is more inclusive, that is more ethical in the full meaning of the word. The reality is very seldomly are you going to see gross violations of ethics. If you do, it is absolutely critical that you stand up to them in ways that make sense. Some workplace cultures have whistleblower protections. Some have leadership that you can reach out to. In some cases, you may have to stand up and even resign. For me, I think of moments that are as important but maybe more ambiguous. I worked at the State Department, and I remember very clearly, I worked with Anne Marie Slaughter, who had this great essay, Why Women Can't Have It All, which came out of her experience at the State Department. She wrote it soon after she left, and I was still at the State Department at the time. And I remember the morning that it came out, every office in the State Department was talking about what it meant. And in my office, I worked at that point for the number 5 official at the State Department, a very senior official. Very small office, it was called his front office. We had about 10 people in the office. And we were all in this room talking about Anne Marie's essay and what it meant. Debating it, men and women back and forth. And the door in our conference room was closed, and outside that door sat the one secretary in our office, the only African-American women in our office, whose voice was excluded from this conversation about inclusion. First of all, that was wrong. Second of all, that was systematic of how Washington and corporate America more broadly functions. Washington, in many respects, is caught in the Mad Men era. If you look at who are the secretaries of the State Department, they are predominantly African-American women who have been systematically excluded, silenced, left out of the conversation. This not only has a tremendous impact on them as individuals and on them as a community, it has a tremendous impact on the policy response in America. So much of what we talk about is how to serve underserved communities, and in the very offices of government, we're excluding the voices from the most underserved communities. In this particular case, that was a relatively easy problem to solve. We had to involve Ellen, who is our wonderful secretary, in that conversation. But I think it's absolutely critical when we talk about having a more ethical office that it is more inclusive in how we define ethics and who's included in those conversations. And we all, particularly those of us from more privileged backgrounds, have to be mindful of who's involved in the conversation, how we can have others involved in the conversation, and even how we can step back ourselves to let other voices shine.